CNBC TV 18 presents the AI Dialogues in association with IBM.
Hello and welcome to AI Dialogues in the Financial Sector, presented by CNBC TV 18 and IBM. AI, or artificial intelligence, has started integrating itself into the financial space in a big way. The customer, for instance, is expecting customized service from banks and other entities in the financial sector. On the other hand, the regulator is expecting complete compliance, and the government as a third party is expecting both privacy and secrecy. Now, how do banks and non-bank financial entities integrate all this and stay on top of this evolving technology of artificial intelligence? That's what we are trying to explore. Well, let me start with some statistics. Just to set the context, as per the latest Reserve Bank report on trends and progress in banking, more than 78.8% of banks have adopted AI chatbots, with 11 out of the 12 public sector banks leveraging AI and machine learning (ML) technologies to offer chatbots and virtual assistants. Furthermore, I'm quoting research from The Economist, which has found that 77% of bankers believe unlocking value from AI will be the differentiator between winning and losing entities. So, with this context, let's take it forward with 4 experts in the field. I have with me 3 outstanding bankers and 1 person from IBM to tell us how AI is integrating itself into the financial space. I have with me Ramesh Lakshminarayanan from HDFC Bank, V Balaji from ICICI Bank, Mahesh Ramamoorthy from Yes Bank, and Rishi Aurora, the managing partner at IBM Consulting India. Gentlemen, thank you very much for generously giving us time.
Thank you.
Okay, let me start right to left. Ramesh, first, how much has AI already made inroads into banks in India? Let us start by you telling us the difference between AI and generative, or classical AI and generative.
So I think this whole thing about classical AI versus generative AI, it's a very interesting concept, and you have to differentiate. The easiest analogy that I have seen is to think that the left brain is nothing but a classical machine learning model or classical AI, and the right side is basically what the generative AI. And how does it work today? Left side is lot of it is analytical driven. You predict, you kind of calculate, you kind of do probability structures and stuff like that, which is more analytical. On the right side, you have you can write, you can narrate, you can converse. So what we've seen is the left side has been used historically for very long in the banking industry. It's going to come back to your question, because neural networks, machine learning models have been there for very long. Fraud monitoring, risk management, credit monitoring, these are concepts that have existed in banking for very long. There too, because compute power has come up in a big way,
Okay.
the models have evolved. While on the other side, the Gen AI is a newborn baby
Yes.
in that sense, and we are all kind of dealing with it. And it is coming very quickly. Banks have already started kind of adoption, and it's early days, I would still say, but lots and lots of use cases that are coming through, and we'll talk through as we go along.
This is very interesting. I mean, at least I've understood a little more about classical AI and generative AI. Would you want to add to that, Balaji?
He has summed up very well, but this is not a question of Gen AI versus classical AI. It's about, when you talk about AI as we get along, all are one step above the other. It is not that after 5 years the classical AI would vanish. It is not that. It is on top of it, Gen AI. So all have different use cases, different this one. You may find a future process where classical AI and Gen AI will coexist along with so many other tools before a particular thing. That's the point I'm making.
I will keep it for a lay person, because the moderator is a lay person and people who are listening to you are also lay persons. I'm sure some experts are also listening in. But Balaji, if you can tell us some use cases where it is already employed, so that we understand what difference Gen AI is making.
Classical AI, if I talk about classical AI, there are lots of machine learnings like what you talked about in credit, this one credit decisioning, in fraud prevention, in many areas. Also, there are many other things like document AI, voice AI, where you convert a voice into text or text into voice, read a document completely. They are all.
I'm referring to in banking. In banking, where have you all used AI?
In banking, we have used in all the processes. What you talked about, that's what all the banks have used, which is in the
making credit decisions.
Making credit decisions, fraud, identifying fraud transactions, and lots
something
of
that is outside the
correct, and application processing. In many areas we have used KYC checking. So many areas where we have already used classical AI, and Gen AI will be on top of it on various other areas. So it is not classical AI versus Gen AI.
I get it.
It will be classical AI plus Gen AI.
Okay. Well, actually, a similar question to you. If you can demonstrate to us, where it is used. Is it maximum used, for instance, in banking in chatbots?
So to me, I think to amplify to what two of my colleagues out here have talked about, to me I think chatbots make it, the first part of is how you use your classical chatbots, how do you keep them learning, which is a classical AI. Now the moment you make generative AI sit on top of it, it is about how you enrich the experience. And that experience enrichment is by saying, you now, in the old ones, you used to keep adding as to queries and how do you respond to a customer. But now with this, you can upload all your documents, read through the documents and make much more intelligent conversations. So generative AI plus generative AI creates intelligence. And that intelligence is what gives you a more enhanced experience to the customer, to the point that you just made. Now to adapt, if you see much more use cases, I think Lata, the biggest thing that you will see across is, Balaji was talking about credit risk decision. While the decisioning happens, you step back and look at the whole process efficiencies. If you look at credit administration, where a lot of documents need to be read, interpreted, that subjectivity created into objectivity. Now this is where a standard AI or classical AI model, as we call it, or what we have today, adds up with generative AI to say, I read through with a lot of public infrastructure documents. How do I bring all of this together? How do I create say a co-pilot adding on to it and creating a document which essentially a RM, a relationship manager, would probably take 5 days, can be done in an hour. Yeah. And then that is where you really create the efficiencies. So I think the combination, it is never in isolation. What essentially we end up doing AI, where now people are seeing is driving efficiencies. Yes. And that is, and more in terms of how you use learning methods, much more better with this. And we will see that as we speak, that the opportunity is huge given where it is coming and given the learning it's far more intuitive. So let's talk about that. I think that's brilliant use cases coming up in the financial sector. Okay. How, whether you look at customer experience, operational efficiency, risk management. If you look at these broad areas,
I'll come to brilliant. Each of these one by one.
Perfect.
But let me get to the external view, so to speak, and in a way the internal view as well. Rishi, as an outsider to the banking space, I suppose you're more an insider, but how do you see the approach? Are you seeing people very keen to adopt, very competitive to adopt? How does India compare with other countries that IBM would be operating in?
Okay, so let me talk about where are we today, and I will talk with some data, right? We do a lot of surveys. IBM's Institute of Business Value conducts these surveys, globally, right? So if I just quote from those surveys, right, 86% of the execs believe that they are already in a stage of, putting AI or Gen AI into production, right? But if I just drill down a bit into it, right? See, doing proof of concepts, doing pilots, right? They happen in a very controlled environment, right? But according to me, the real challenge is basically scaling this, right, across your enterprise. So if I just drill down into this survey again, only 8% of the organizations are actually taking a structured approach to adoption of AI. I'm sure these organizations will get there, but scaling AI across the enterprise is a big challenge. And
Are you saying only 8% are able to have scaled
at this
so
point
far?
of time,
Okay.
when 86% of them are saying that we are already on the path of AI adoption, but only 8% of these are scaling it across their organization through a very structured approach. Like, because when you try and scale this up, right, Balaji, Ramesh, they spoke about the, we have to be on the right side of regulations. Data privacy becomes very important, right? So, so how do you ensure that you are on their right side? So AI governance, according to me, becomes extremely important. How do you control data, right? AI models, it's based on data, right? So how do you really control the data which is going into those models? Who owns that data? Who owns the IP, right? So all these aspects actually come through, right? But organizations, what I have seen is organizations, and Mahesh, Ramesh, Balaji, all of them spoke about these use cases, right? I think spoke about the use cases around risk and compliance. According to me, customer support or customer service, banks are now getting into a services-led model. I think use cases around customer service are predominant, and fantastic cross-sell, upsell opportunities, right? Then use cases around operational efficiency, anything which is kind of cost, very heavy cost centric or labor intensive, where there are opportunities. I think operations efficiency is another use case which banks and financial organizations can adopt. What we have also seen is banks obviously use a lot of tech. All of us say that banks are tech firms first, and then they are banks.
Yes.
So technology efficiency, right, I think is another, if I can call it tech modernization, app modernization, that's another fantastic use case which is which is available to the banks, right? Okay. If I can just my last bit on this, if I can just elaborate on across industries, and I will take IBM's own example. We have implemented Gen AI in IBM for customer support, for tech IT life cycle, if I can call it, or HR support, right? Okay. And if I just quote some figures from our HR ops, right? 94% of our responses today are all automated, right? 94%. Our NPS with our employees has gone up by 25 points. And I'm talking of 1 million transactions, or 1 million transactions being processed over the last 12 months. So the opportunity is endless. The elements which we really need to take care, like I said, are the governance part of it. That is really key to the success.
That is going to be my next set of questions. Actually,
before a little bit on the use cases, I think sometimes it's we can think about complicated use cases. Let me give you a very simple example. We are kind of working on this one, which is very interesting. Is can you talk to your statements?
Can you talk to your statements?
Yes. Why not? Why would you try and go and download a statement? Where did I go and did my transaction on 24th of February? You talk to saying, where did I go on 24th February? And it should give you an answer, right?
Correct.
It's that beautiful if you think about it. Some of these are very
I was just
simple.
going to start with that example. I had a problem that I was trying to, debit money to a foreign account for a certain reason, and it was not accepting. Booking an Airbnb, actually, to be precise. And immediately I called my bank. I said, why is it not going? Is my card not enabled? And in seconds, the gentleman could tell me, the call center could tell me that there's nothing wrong. You have done previous transactions. Yours is a Forex enabled card. There is something wrong with the acceptance end. So is that an AI case? You seem to be saying something much more, talking to the...
See, this one could be an AI case. For example, one of the things that we want to look at it is when you assume the same thing, right? You could have an issue with a card block. You could have had an issue with an international limit. You could have had an issue with a particular, acquirer kind of, terminal issue. Now, some of the basic checks, for example, I could have just run through your card profile and say, for example, a very simple example, you have set your limit at 50,000 rupees for international transaction. Why does a person have to go and seek that out? You could run through and say, these are 5 things I can check, and I can then push an answer back intelligently. That's still not there, that kind of intelligence, but we will probably get there as we go along.
How close are you to, or how close is the system to actually talking to your statement?
So we are quite close. See, it boils down to 2 things, Lata. One of the things that in India specifically is that we still are grappling with privacy and governance. Okay, and what do I mean by that? Just to kind of elaborate a little bit more. In the classical way, in fact, if you see the cloud adoption in India itself was, it's just started coming through, because the regulations have been very clear now, adoption of cloud has taken off. Same way, when you look at the data, banks, the 2 parts to this AI. One is a public AI, what we call as an open AI.
Open.
So whether you've got ChatGPT, whether it's Bard, so on and so forth, many open AI models are available. These open AI models tend to consume or kind of guzzle the data from public sources,
yes.
Okay, and then they are trained on that. Now, when banks look at it, you have to seek an answer from these models. It is very difficult for you to go to a public model because there's tendency to also kind of hallucinate. Okay, what's called as hallucination or what's called as bias.
Wrong
actually.
data, you mean?
Wrong data, bias. Okay, so those things come in. So because of this, banks will have to necessarily go back to a model where they import a model which is a LLM which is private, unlike a Llama 2 or a Cohere, and they can push it to their environment and then put their data and train it on top of it. That would obviously give a very high accuracy. There are today techniques to even use open models also. I mean, there's something called a vector DB technique which a lot of people are using, but you don't want to be in a situation where to your customer you are actually mixing up the data. So the key factor is how do you create an infrastructure, number one, in India, which can support the fact that you can import a model, tune it, and there are lots of other things, validations, bias corrections, PEFT, which is basically feature technique engineering. So these things have to get done. That's the science that a lot of us are learning at this point of time. And we also expect that some of the explicability of these models have to, which is very important from a regulation perspective. Why did this model give an answer and an output, basis what? So these are things that are coming through right now. So the AI infrastructure is very critical for the banks to adopt it at scale. The skill sets of people who can do this, again, is a very key ask. And then I think clearly the vision coming from the bank's top leadership. I think these are 3 driving factors that will hopefully drive the adoption, and I think that's where we are seeing. I think it's very early days, but I can tell you all of these models, many of the banks, I'm not just talking from my bank perspective, a lot of are moved either beyond POCs, or I would say in some advanced form of at least one use case would start coming in, let's say, next few months kind of a scenario. That's where we are sitting in.
Okay, let me reveal the question, leak the question paper. I want from all of you, what is the aha moment of AI? You gave me one by saying that you can talk to your statement. I want from each of you one such aha moment that you are expecting. That is one set of questions I will ask you all. And the other one would be challenges. Okay, and you already, all of you have touched on them. Those would be my next 2 rounds of questions. But before I come to that, I want this one doubt cleared, which all of you have raised in my head. Biases. If you are going to learn from public, if AI is going to draw from public databases, there would be biases. Certain kinds of people may not be given. For instance, there will be fewer loans given to women than men. There would be fewer loans given to certain districts in India because they've only now become rich. Hitherto they were not banked. So how do you, would there not be these biases, Balaji?
Yeah, that's the reason why when we are both Ramesh and Rishi explained it very well. Before that, each of the organizations should have the governance set right for AI. Before behaving like a child in a toy shop, we have to. It has to be the governance have to be put in place. We have to be very clear on how we are going to do that. What is the implication? There are lots of risks. You asked about challenges also.
Yeah.
Sometimes there are lots.
We will come to that.
Yeah, no, I'm saying that.
I'm just saying, how do you correct these
Correct.
biases?
Yeah.
I get very scared that when generative happens,
I'll probably chime in here. There is corrective techniques that are used. Okay, there's bias correction, and that's why when you get it into internal,
Your own
environment,
models.
you will really fine tune. There's feature engineering that happens to remove these biases, and that's why it's extremely critical that you don't use a public AI model. Okay.
Public. That is the point I was saying. So it has to that governance have to be put in place. Once we have the governance put in place, then some of it would be, if you put the challenges correctly, then you can put the mitigation correctly. I mean, that is the
you
point.
wanted to add to it.
Yeah, so I think just to add to what you, Balaji and Ramesh have said, is that banks have a lot of data, lots and lots of data. Now, and lot of data is available thanks to UPI and all these digital transactions happening. Today, to your point on decisioning and the bias,
Ultimately, a human
Yes.
being has to make the decision.
correct. So, and the way you manage it, because today if you look at a digital public infrastructure and take the data from there and you start creating certain models associated with, that's what we do today. The moment you overlay it with a lot of these, it doesn't necessarily give you the right view. It may not give, and that's when the bias will end up becoming a non-compliance to an expectation that will come in. So to me, I think what's going to happen is, it is going to be a learning curve not just for the institutions but also for regulators, because what will happen soon, Natab, is one is going to start understanding how do you put the right governance layer, not just restrict the data, but how do you use the data more better qualitatively, and then make sure that that is made available to dissuade these biases coming in. So that is a story that will unfold, because today the adoption is happening. There's a lot of use cases in the market, but for a financial institution as a part of its own processes, for its own data versus other data, how do you really put the governance and how regulator is going to see it? I wouldn't be surprised in the next 18-24 months we get some kind of directions, I would say, or a policy statement which essentially say, you know what, this is how you should implement. Because this is a learning, the amount of data that today is getting collected.
Sometimes you may not even be aware of the bias.
Yes, today they collect a lot of data. So they are also doing a lot of mining. You're going to see this coming up, and that's where if an India-centric language model comes up, it's going to happen. I'm not seeing it far away.
Yeah, that's happening.
And the moment that happens, your ability to create non-biased decisions is going to emerge stronger. And that is going to be the
Rishi, as an outsider, I mean, again, I shouldn't call you an outsider. I guess you're more into financial services than every individual. But do you all work this into the products you sell?
Yes.
This how much is responsible AI a part of your thinking?
Okay. So, we all spoke about data a lot. We also spoke about, how do we control the data, right? Let me talk about, these biases, right? We spoke a lot of people, right? All the execs who we kind of talked to, and almost, half of them, 50% of who we have spoken to, right? There is a predicament to not use AI because of these biases. For example, explainability, right? Explainability is what? How do you explain the outcome which your model is actually generating? Yeah. How do you explain that, right? Ethics. Again, people kind of challenge, right, how ethical this outcome is. Does it use data which is my data? Whose data is it kind of using? Bias. Is the outcome just based on an existing bias which was there? And trust. Do we really trust the outcomes which are being delivered? So, if I talk about these 4 areas of concern, In IBM, we run an imperative. We have Watson X, which is our own Gen AI platform, right? So if I talk about these 4 concerns, how do we solve for it, right? IBM, we work with AI alliances across some 57 organizations, companies, universities, for use of responsible AI, right? And we call it internally, when we are building our platforms, we call it the pillars of trust, and our platform is based on these pillars of trust. What is that? For example, when I say robustness, right? The platform should be robust. There cannot be any kind of intentional or unintentional interferences, right? It has to be fair. I'm just giving you a few examples of these principles of trust which we use, right? It has to be fair. And how can it be fair? The size of data and the disparity of data which we will use to feed into our platform. Ethical AI, responsible AI, most important, right? So you publish the way we publish the way we build, we deploy platforms. We also publish if there are any kind of limitations in the platform. So be extremely transparent, right? So we work on these. So
someone who uses like
right. So we work on these principles of trust in building our platform. But despite all of these challenges, a lot of us spoke about data privacy, personal information, biases, but despite all of that, we believe that there is a blueprint which is now emerging. For successful use of AI, right? Okay. And this blueprint has 4 elements, and I will just end with that. See, what are these 4 elements? One is data. We spoke a lot about data. Our customers they have to be confident if they are using our models, if they use our platform, right? The ownership of IP is with IBM. There is no, so control the data which is moving into the platform. So one is data. I spoke about ethical/responsible AI. Again, publish, right? What you are deploying. Publish, design, build, deploy of your models, right? Yes. So our clients are pretty clear in terms of what are they really getting out of it. Then I talk about this cross-culture bit in organizations. Yes, there are organizations which are deploying AI, one use case, or 2 use cases, but how do you scale this, right? This cross collaboration between organization. And finally, it is about agility. And what I mean by agility is, the technology changes will keep happening, the regulations will keep getting more stringent, right? So your AI engine or your AI platform or Gen AI platform needs to continuously respond to these regulatory changes and technology changes in an agile manner, right? That's the principles which we follow.
On which you build your programs. Fair point. And let me come with the most simple question, and at least the more attractive one, which I started with. This aha moment. I'm really impressed that one day I can talk to my bank statement. What do you think, Mahesh, can be the next time when a customer says, oh, wow.
So if I were to look at, I'll have a couple of aha moments, not one. So one.
You can give me more.
I can, but it's a long list that we're looking. But look at it when you believe that you are at a point where the bank is suddenly reaching out to you in a very personalized way of an ask that you have wished for. Now I'm just simplifying it. Obviously, that means there is a lot of cross data of what you've done, what you've spoken, what you've interacted with across, and the bank is able to synthesize that information, curate it.
A telepathic moment.
And bring it to you to say, you know what, basis of what you've done, basis of what you've accessed, basis talking to the statement versus this, you now are suddenly saying, you know what, let's take a case. I'm saying that I'm sure you have your son's marriage up here, looking for a loan. Now let me give you at an interest rate of XYZ. If you want it, you don't need to do anything, just say yes, we will take care, and by the way, we will also have an event manager on all these ready for you. So now look at a customer who says, you know what, how come this guy, while he may be this thing, we say, I have my bank looking at what I'm trying to do and what I need. So that will be a great use case. I'm saying today a bank is not just financials, but how does it envelop your entire expectations, lifestyle. I think that's going to be one stuff there. Internally, like I talked about, two big use cases is how do I create efficiencies, because scale is going to be big, and at scale when you try to do fraud detection, our great use cases, all of us with UPI driving huge this thing. Now we have standard AI models, but being able to infuse it with far more intellectual capabilities and being able to give that control better to the risk managers and being it far more intuitive is going to be a big shift. Like for example, if you are able to also manage your own risk for the bank, it's going to be even great. But at the same time, if you guy is sitting out there in the fraud management unit, today he's only dependent on some alerts throwing at him. But if he's going to be much more intuitive for him, basis all this intelligence that is done, I think it is out of the world. The bank will reduce its risk profile in a significant way, and hence it's good for the ecosystem. And then that's a couple of things that I really think about.
I really wish that happens, because in the last few months, at least I am coming across a lot of individuals who come and tell me, you know what, this much got deducted from my account. Since you are the banking reporter, you know bankers, can you put me through to the right person?
But
actually, the number of such people
I'll tell you what is happening.
Actually increasing.
Yeah,
so
because
it would be very great if,
See, it has to happen, because the digital, I would say, explosion is not getting mirrored with the way we manage risk associated with it. I think that cannot be managed with what we do, what we have traditionally done or evolving. It has to have a much more leapfrog there.
Yes. And
how it becomes inline to your entire process. It's there, but the way you need to look at it and the way you need to interpret it is very different. I think these are big things. But if you can what every organization is going through is, I'll give you another big use case that we were talking about. How does banks collaborate with an insurance agency? I'll give you a simple use case. Now, if you are, interesting one, but if you are constantly ordering from Swiggy, say a pizza or something, and you are also having an insurance, health insurance there. Now, you know the quality of food versus this. If you are able to triage it and give you a better way, this is not Gen AI, but general AI.
Oh, you're eating too much junk food.
But you see and depending on your age, and you are at this thing, and your health, and if there is health data available, now you triage these, or you have a complete 4 or 5 pointers that are come to you, and you present to you, listen, I think you are somewhere not in the right space.
So when you're paying for it, you get a pop-up saying
and
that,
now,
are you eating the right food?
I'll give you a discount if you don't do this on your premium, right? Look at that. It is going to change. Today, a lot of this is offline. But if you make it online and you say that, I'll give you 15% discount.
SEBI is using it, by the way.
Yeah,
when you do an options trade, it pops up saying that, do you know that 95% is ending in losses? So it is
going to
to
be.
some extent.
I'm saying
by
that
the
is where
regulator.
data is going to be, and the amount of AI that you put on top.
But these
and the way
killjoys will come up to tell you. No, but aha moment. He gave me one aha moment. You tell me, where do you think it will come?
No. Mahesh covered it beautifully, and he also talked about the talking statement and all. I would say in 2-3 areas where really aha moment, in addition to what he was talking about. One, how do you increase the transparency to the customer? I'm just talking about how do we increase, even within banks have huge data of the customers, and the bank system also it's pretty huge even to get within what is available for a given customer. You are a corporate customer, you are a CFO in a corporate, you are also a private this one. I mean, how do we know a customer? How do we give all transparency to a customer in a full scale? That is one area definitely GenAI can work on reading our own data and coming in. And the number two, this one, it's about our own internal customer-facing people. If you really see all the banks, if I take this one, 20% of the people don't require any support. I mean, they are too good in any organization. The majority is the belly part of it, which is around 70-80% of the people. Either they are pretty new. Every bank has around 40%, 50%.
I know it's high turnover.
High turnover. This one, new people joining, they will take months to settle. All settlement banking is a very large kind of thing, kind of servicing. So for them to know everything, so how can we help those people to settle faster? How can we enable them not to tell something wrong to the customer? They are not saying intentionally. They are not doing anything intentionally.
So
maybe
co-pilots.
Okay, how do you make them better? Then you are making actually the 60-70% of the people also on par with 20%, because who do not require any tool for them to. So again, GenAI is like a knife you can use to cut vegetables and
I know, you should kill a person. That is true. No, actually, you brought it very nicely to my next issue. Instead of problems, let me look at the work culture. Okay, I put it in a different kind of way. Will you have less people, Ramesh?
No, I don't think.
Because that is the big fear, that AI will mean fewer people.
So there is a question that's asked often. In fact, I'm just giving a little perspective because my daughter was writing an essay on this. Okay, and when we were kind of looking at that essay, one of the things that came out. Look, historically, humankind, whether it's from the start of the wheels to basically industrial revolution to the internet revolution.
Yes.
The first, aspect has been, will this cut jobs? We've gone through this cycle.
Yes.
It's not the first time that we're going through this cycle. So fundamentally, if you ask me, it's the same cycle that's going to come. So to that extent, I don't think this will kind of result. Maybe in short term, yes, you might, because there would be some questions around efficiency, questions around agility, which could be solved very quickly. So the human mind has to quickly adapt to that because everybody is in race to kind of get there. But when you normalize it over a larger period of time, I think what will happen is it also means the shift in the skills. And that's a very, very, and like I said, I think that and this is a great opportunity. I personally think that GenAI also brings or removes language bias. Okay, I think for a country like India, it's an amazingly open opportunity because a lot of our people do not necessarily think in English. Okay, which has been a logical language for a lot of our technical skills for till now actually.
AI will remove that bias?
will big time remove the bias.
Yes.
Because you are kind of, you can talk to anything in any language, right? That is the beauty of this. In fact, that's also the other question that the second aha moment that I see is the banking industry going, I wouldn't say Varnatra, that's the right word, but regionalization. Because our penetration is limited today simply because at best we think Hindi or English.
And language.
Yeah. So the same thing if you apply, I think people across the country would adopt faster, like he said, they will learn faster and the skills will,
So you're saying that because of AI, certain jobs may not be needed, but you can reskill them very quickly. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely. Reskill them, and the AI itself will aid in the reskilling. Okay. So it's kind of a counter, right?
Oh,
it's
that's extremely consoling for me.
Yeah.
That you will not.
I mean, you look at your profession, Ginlata. I mean, why wouldn't you do if you can get your write-up done by the AI, but you can actually then use your experience, your skills to make it sharper. Right, you don't want to
don't do the donkey work.
Yeah, look at design.
The hard work.
Yeah, forget the banking industry. We gave the
the Monday work.
Banking industry. We gave the use case. Let's look at the use case, for example, with multimodal models now. I mean, you would have seen Sora being launched a couple of days back, and many other, Gemini was another multimodal. Look at how designers can think. I don't know if you saw some of the tweets that went around on Sora launch. I mean, somebody said, you can just tell me how a dolphin race will happen on the floor of a sea, right? And it created that kind of an image. Imagine this kind of stuff in the hands of designers, creative people, and in any language that you can do. So I think it's a matter. While it's a matter of concern in the short run, but I do think that it opens. Yeah,
jobs.
Absolutely. It's the next level of evolution.
No, that is how I tend to console myself. When I joined journalism, we did not have Excel. I used to physically enter the prices of commodities, share prices, and then look for patterns over the month, over the year, over the registers. And then when Excel came, did we lose jobs? No,
exactly.
We could create more stories.
Exactly, that's
I agree. But does it work that Balaji?
I don't know. Every time the leap in technology happens, there is a buzz around
Job losses.
Job losses. It has never happened so far, and it's not going to happen in future also. Only because, like what he said, maybe some types of job may be slowly getting extinct, but there are different types of jobs which will come in. So it's about that particular thing. And number two, majority of the use cases people are talking about, how do you make it more better outcome, better transparency, better version of what it is, rather than not at all. That could be one of this one, but I tend to agree with him. I mean, it is going to.
And you will actually reskill.
Reskill and lots
reskill
of people,
and upskill.
Upskill and lots of people who think different languages are actually very good. But they have
Maybe
a language barrier.
You will need more UX UI guys
who need a language barrier to be broken. Those people will come into the picture. I mean,
who would otherwise never have thought of finance as
exactly.
an area will come. Okay, on a similar vein, do you think you won't need so many branches? Will branches go out of fashion because all data is coming?
So I don't think branches will go out of fashion. I think branches will become much more cohesive in terms of what they can do. Today, it has already moved from being a servicing, just a servicing outlet to a sales outlet. Right? Tomorrow it can become a marketplace. I would see it becoming a marketplace for any institution.
Okay.
When I say marketplace, doesn't mean just you sell banking products. You are able to infuse a lot more other products to be able to cross sell, to be able to present you a much more better way of looking at things.
You will still be opening branches.
The space will come down. The pace at which, for example, you may open the way we are all rushing into say tier 4 cities, create smaller outfits, not large outfits. I would say the DBUs is a classic case. If you see DBUs, right? DBUs is a beautiful example of how you proliferate technology in a regional model with the use of, say, AI-infused capabilities to enable reach into those respective areas. Go up to a hilly region where you have a branch, you will suddenly find a nice little hoarding there, get into it, it's a room about, say, 300 square feet. But if you play it out in the regional language, it is a voice-based capability rather than a text-based capability. You can do what you like and you are able to do everything.
You will still want a human being to man it.
Yeah, you will have one or two. You may not have
You
five.
may not have like
You don't have five, you don't need
and
five.
Look, the thing with the branches, what it also does, the capability of the branches, like you said, is going to substantially go up. It's also, in that sense, the branch is also in some form insurance for the
customer.
For the customer. So the
that
nature,
he has a human figure.
Yeah, I think that's where I think we are going. We're kind of sitting with the customers. I think this branch thing versus digital, I think it's little overdone. If you ask me, in your own mind, if you see a board next door, you feel a little comfortable. Yeah, there is a physical entity. That's it. I mean, you still would not walk into the branch.
Not have gone to a bank.
But Lata, look at this one thing. A lot of the banks which were digital only banks have not succeeded.
Exactly.
Technically, they were advanced. Why they didn't succeed?
Probably we needed the human.
because
hand.
one couldn't see it beyond being digital.
Even
I'm saying
globally.
is, I see one of them. It's my interpretation of it, that one could, it presented everything and anything you required, but something going wrong. There was always this fear that I don't know where this organization existed in the first place.
Okay.
So to me, I think the morphing will happen. The use of technology will enable it to do very differently, and the regionalization to what Ramesh said is going to be huge, and that will change the game of inclusion.
Another factor is there are lots of areas in India where the banking is actually not there.
Not
actually,
there.
that expands.
So we are not yet in the stage to ask about will branches
And
disappear,
yeah,
because we have not even reached.
Yeah, and imagine what, like you said, what AI can do out there.
Yeah.
Like you said, regionalization, simplification, things like security training for customers, right? It's a simple thing, right? I mean, we could do that in the branches.
Huge.
Trade transactions. Sometimes it's complicated. You don't understand, and that person
Hand
there.
holding can be.
Yeah, so those kind of stuff the morphing will happen quickly. I think that's the biggest
Classic
opportunity.
case, I'll tell you, is going to be now all financial institutions, including government, is rushing to include the MSME, SME customer. That's a huge, and that's the biggest opportunity we are all chasing
60
through.
million we are told.
Yeah, we are all chasing through. Now, where are these? You are only covering tier 2, tier 3 max, but there are folks who do it in the tier 4.
Yes.
Now, how do you engage them? Now, here is a DBU, if you look at that whole concept, now I like the concept, what we earlier had, e-banking kiosks, right? 10 years ago, you had nice little e-banking kiosks with an ATM or passbook printer. But today, if you use this technology to be enabling them, speak in that language, hey, you want a current account, you want say you want a trade transaction to be initiated. Because of this, I speak in your local language, come with your documents, upload it, scan it, upload. You are able to get help locally in your language. Your comfort, someone is speaking to you in a way that it is, upload it, and you are able to do your time. Now suddenly that someone who's probably had to travel 50 kilometers says, no, I don't need to spend, because now this branch is suddenly doing something different.
Oh.
And as long as I'm getting my work done, it's changed the game.
Absolutely.
And that kiosk is not a substitute branch.
Yes.
If I can deliver in kiosk, I can deliver in phone. It is there across the country. So
Correct.
the question is, you require a physical form, like what he correctly said, the form of the branch will change. But the requirement of a branch will not change. And
Sorry.
No. I just.
No, I
In
wanted
fact,
to know,
on a lighter note, Lata, maybe you will have a deep fake of the branch. That's a different.
I'm coming to fakes, but before that, anything you wanted to contribute in terms of the human element?
See, branches will definitely be leaner. Even if you look at that percentage of transactions happening today, right? I think the percentage of transactions happening digitally are only going up, right? But that doesn't mean the branches are going anywhere. Now, when you think of
if you can address the broader issue of not just branch, but how many labor loss, work loss.
I don't
see that.
I don't see
both.
Okay, so
Physical and number of people.
Okay, let me cover the branches and I will get to the jobs part of it. So I don't see the branches going anywhere. Yes, they will get leaner. Also think of a concept, and think of a concept that you are in tier 3, tier 4 city. There are Kinara stores with all this technology being available, with you being able to converse in your own language with the local people. If you have 2 people from the bank with a small board sitting in the Kinara store, right? It can act like a very, I would say a very lean branch kind of thing, right? So I think all those.
I get your point that there will be branches, but they will be lean branches.
Definitely.
But my specific question to you is, will it become lean banks? Will the number of people itself be?
No, they will.
They are not saying, but I wanted to know your view.
No, I don't see that happening. What is going to happen is, what is going to happen is people are going to do more intelligent jobs, right? The routine, mundane jobs can be left. The boring jobs can be left to the machine. Can be automated. We are truly in the AI revolution, and why I say that, right? We upskill. Ramesh spoke about, all of them spoke about, upskilling the people, right? Where are these investments going to go? When we are making investments, one is obviously tech, right? What platforms you have. Where is the other investment? What is going to make this AI bit successful. The other investments are going in upskilling your people to start using this, right? So and the impact which this combination of tech and people is going to have on the business, end of the day, it's all business outcome, right? Is going to be a multiplier effect. So I see people doing more meaningful, more intelligent jobs, and some bit of jobs which are repeatable can be automated.
Yeah, just a little bit on that also is that, look, today also if you see, Lata, there are lots of gap areas. For example, take contact centers, right? I mean, whatever you do, there is pressure on the contact center. There are wait lines.
Yeah.
You go to the branches, sometimes you have to wait, right? Selling, for example, a lot of mis-selling, cross-selling.
Yes.
So I see AI, whether it's Gen AI, classical AI, actually kind of aiding to remove these inefficiencies and use the skills of the people to service better. Today, the productivity is actually dragged down on things which maybe you can...
Absolutely. I think mis-selling is something which perhaps even the person is not aware, or maybe the person is aware when he is selling, but or she is selling. But that
intention cannot be removed, but at least inefficiency in that or
Exactly.
Excellently.
That should be
that's very
Exactly.
well put. Okay, now I think we should ask. Intentions cannot be changed, but inefficiencies can be removed. Now let's come to the challenges. You already began by talking about privacy. So, do you think that will be one of the biggest challenges?
No, there are multiple challenges.
Privacy.
When we use public data, there could be copyright issues. Tomorrow, there could be which can be legal. It can be privacy issue. What kind of customer data can go to a public this one and then come back. And there are you talked about very well talked about explainability. There is a repeatability point which comes in explainability, repeatability. All these questions, the challenges are there in the model, and that need to be addressed. I'm saying that these are very early days for us to this one, but almost all banks are aware of the challenges, and we are working. Most of our use cases are designed to remove this one. But as we get along in the next 1 year or so, when all of us are using the Gen AI to some extent, then maybe the entire governance structure and the entire risk mitigation will work on, and we will come out of that particular thing.
The DP bill, that itself requires that you need the customer's consent before using the data. How do you think, will that be a very big challenge? Because I think the government has not yet released.
Yeah, but see, on consent,
the rules.
It is definitely a very significant shift, especially from an India context. But it's not that it's not been done. I also want to kind of bring to your attention that look at GDPR has been there. It got implemented 5-6 years back in Europe. Privacy and consent were very central to that.
Yes.
And when it came, everybody was worried. I used to work for an organization, it has to be GDPR compliant. I remember going through this whole pangs of whether we'll be able to do it, but it settled down. Okay, so I think in an Indian context, I think what will happen. I think in fact, in some ways, it's very good because you look at the kind of amount of spam calls, fraud calls, all of that. I'm hoping that will take care. Second, of course. The fact that privacy has to come at the center. See, at the end of the day, we are all going to be much more digitally enabled as we continue to kind of, evolve. And again, the fact that what is personal, what is public, that distinction has to be very clearly made, and that's an individual choice. So I think consent will be there. But I also think that some of these AI technologies will also aid in that. Instead of kind of, if you look at only, again, everything has both sides. So while one side we're saying, okay, can information be crawled from various places? Will I be able to, like, Mahesh's example, would you be able to, see my eating patterns, food patterns, and can you
combine? Exactly. As a customer, I may get angry. That why is it that my bank knows my habits or my insurance
But
company.
I could deploy an AI application which precisely ensures that there is a consent framework in the journey that's coming up and asking every time
Is it already coming?
It can be built. I mean, it's very easily you can build it. You will see this getting built up because, for example, why would you kind of try and let's say crawl data and not kind of ask customers if it's all automated, because then you don't need to kind of go back to people and create those kind of structures for that. So I think it's privacy is at the center, but I think the bigger challenge to my mind is the security angle.
Correct.
Okay, because I think while that 25 million got siphoned off of the Hong Kong bank last week, it's unbelievable, because it was a normal senior management meeting. So just one person was real and everybody else was deep fake. So it's
unbelievable,
right?
that.
So I think
that there could be so many fake. I would have thought that there would be more real and one fake. This was the other way around.
So two things driving this. One is the Gen AI deep fake is here and real, because it's not going to be an easy problem to solve for Lata, because look at it, you believe in voices, you believe in pictures, you believe in motion, videos, and suddenly those are getting questioned. And a lot of our authentic video KYC and all, we have to really rethink, right, from a banking perspective. Suddenly you are throwing a very different angle.
Yes.
Right? I mean, you might, how do you know, because right?
How do I trust?
So I think that is one big thing.
In election season, it is really scary.
It is very scary, and in fact, it's already happening, right? I mean, we've seen elections, leaders kind of coming on generated AI, and you'll see a lot of other things, campaigns and stuff like that. But coming back to the banking industry, video KYC is a foundational aspect, right? It could get very big time kind of question because of this technology.
Because the branch will be useful if you want to go and check whether this is fake or not.
Yeah, for all that, that's what we'll come to.
As long as the branch is not fake.
Yeah. So the second aspect is the classical security side, because one other thing that's happening is the algorithms are getting better, and the quantum compute is also lurking in the corner, Lata. And what that will do is it will open up a very different set of issues from a security perspective. Keys can be broken, hacks can be so. I think it's.
You're scaring me now.
No, I'm not scaring, but I think and
Yeah,
by the way,
that's reality.
It's happening.
It's happening already.
But then there is also this thing, and it's very interesting that there is also a set of research, set of people who are involved, what they call as AI for AI. So if humans can't stop machines from faking, machines will stop machines. Okay. So I think this will play out. It's very fascinating. Like everything else, I think there are pitfalls like security, privacy, deep fakes. All of them are real challenges. But I think, like I said, human brain and human evolution always kind of comes up. And today also we have bad and good and bad guys. But there are checks and balances that technology brings in. People's thought processes, values come through. So I think this will play out.
I have 2 points. One serious one the lighter one. On the serious side, I would say that at least banking in India is very, very responsible with the data already. It's one of the few industries which are very responsible with the data. See, I've
hardly heard of any banking leaks.
Banking greed, I would say banking greed with the data is not happening. If at all data is used within the bank, it's never going out of the bank. So that way, I think
at least we are starting on a sound.
Within the industry, within various industries in the country, for the DPDP, banking would be the one closest which can, I would say, would be compliant to start with per se, because it's already responsible. It can be a little bit edges can be broken. On the lighter vein, on the point you talked about. You talk personalized, whether you have or not. You will also know whether you like that message or not, and you will not show it to you if you don't like.
So also adding to this, Lata is also going to be the fact that when you look at today our digital public infrastructure, probably there is a lot of data residing there, lots, and that's only expanding. What we started with Aadhaar to today, if you look at it, today account aggregator framework is significantly changing the way you are essentially using a digital, and that consent framework, to what Ramesh was saying, is only going to get more stronger and more pervasive into the process.
Yes.
That's going to happen. And that's going to allow for a lot of protection and data enablement at the hands of the owner of the data. At the end of the day, it's only residing somewhere, but how do you do it? Like for example, DigiLocker or a Digi Yatra. We all use these Digis very well because it's very helpful.
Yes.
But how do you, if at all that's going to be used, the consent framework will be essentially be put in. It's not a challenge, but essentially that will essentially need to come in place to be able to allow you to enable better usage. Now, I think classic case is going to be PAN. The struggle we all go through, all of us, is that now the way the PAN data was earlier being given to us is going to change the next 20 days significantly.
Oh.
Yeah, because, and truthfully, I would say rightfully so, saying that, no, we are not going to give you the data, you define the data, we will give you yes or no. And I think it's a step in the right direction. But it means that how banks think about it, how financial institutions, not just financial, everyone thinks of the usage of data and the way we have to look at this whole challenge to make it much more at the hands of the customer to or the citizen has to come. It will change because right now that's going to make a big shift. Now it's going to have its own problem statements like we had in the early days. PAN card or SMS was handed over to someone and say, boss, you take my this thing, and there were frauds coming in. That is going to evolve itself, but there are also going to be mitigations to that.
Yeah.
So,
but one subtle point what you mentioned about it. Already for most of the people who are bankable in the country, their data is available everywhere.
Yes.
My data is available wherever, I don't know, you can think of, it's available all everywhere, all across. Yeah. So beyond the point, per se certain data which we think are very, this one is already there. There's
no, that's true.
So that way,
RBI makes it very incumbent on banks that you should immediately delete the person's PAN number or delete the person's card number. As soon as you get it,
that's not the way shops behave.
Exactly, they liberally take our Aadhaar card Xerox. Oh my God, so many hotels during COVID, restaurants used to make us write our mobile number. You can't enter the building unless you write, which you don't know.
In fact, the most obvious one is, when you go to shop, I mean, people ask your mobile number as if it's some,
Exactly.
You can,
and I give मैं नहीं दूंगी, and then आपको ही point नहीं मिलेगा.
Yeah, exactly. And then you start giving some other.
You can punish only obedient boy. Naughty boy anyway is not going to listen to the punishment.
good.
I think it's going to be
now
good. It's
the
going to
big
be
challenge. I'm surprised none of you all said that. You all spoke about privacy, you all spoke about compliance, regulatory. Investment, financial investment. Rishi, do your clients say, my God, I just spent so much money on upgrading this and now I've got to rewrite the whole thing, and the financial implications a big challenge.
So I just spoke about the multiplier effect, right? I think, it's all about ROI, right? When we are doing these use cases and when we are scaling these AI, right? These AI programs, there is obviously you define the success factors or the success matrix as we call it. What is the outcome which is actually going to be
which will legitimize the investment
delivered, right? And scaling it. See, 1-2 use cases. I already spoke about moving beyond pilots, right? But moving across organizations, scaling it, right?
Scaling it.
Obviously, the ROIs will define that. How will you keep scaling AI, right? So, we define the success factors, we define success metrics before embarking on any such programs. And most important is, how do we keep measuring that? How do we keep showing the benefits back to business? Because that's how you can just keep moving forward.
Just to come in there, I think also the AI investments and the the machine learning based investments, I think India might need a different model. That's my personal view. Because if you're just going to put classical way of putting costs and kind of saying, okay, bring in GPUs, bring in all kinds of model validation tools and all kind of orchestration tools, in the immediate run, I think it will be difficult for anybody to justify the costs. Okay, I'll be honest with you. But the flip side to it, if you are going to get use cases which are going to be driven by economies of scale, where the real scale comes as a very, very, let's say,
Huge
driving
economies.
factor, I think we will probably have a far better model. So, most of the use cases have to be linked to something that's very transformational at scale, kind of, which is what we have succeeded. If you see our UPI journey and some of the other digital journeys that we've seen the success, telecom, pricing. I think I similarly see that the adoption of the AI will actually be very different financial model in India compared to some of the Western countries. I do very strongly believe in that.
Highly, and we embark. See, before you embark on a big program, today we are doing many just to get started and just to have a view on how it has performed. We are doing many pilots or proof of concepts as a, with our clients, just to see, what is working, what is not working before you start embarking on, larger programs. And many such proof of concepts are happening today on our platform.
And also I think there are a lot of Indian experiments. I think that's the other thing that we not covered in this. So there is a Bharat GPT initiative going on. There's a Bharat Cloud initiative that's coming up. I think also as India kind of starts getting into chip designs and infrastructure creation, I think it's very, very great opportunity for us also to seize this moment and be the leaders in the AI space with a different context. I think there's a great opportunity.
Oh, absolutely. I don't think big data can be better defined than in India. I mean, data doesn't get bigger.
That's right.
Except in the Indian case. Balaji, Ramesh, Mahesh and Rishi, thank you very much for an enriching conversation. You leave me a little optimistic. Like you point out, there will be problems thrown up by AI, but the way it is evolving, AI itself will solve those problems. And I think the greatest confidence I'm going back with is that there won't be job losses. Actually, AI is also creating the best tools for reskilling and upskilling the jobs that it may render redundant. Thank you very much for an enriching and an optimistic conversation. I'm very confident that AI is going to make our lives better. It's not scary at all. Thank you very much for watching this very interesting conversation.
CNBC TV 18 presents the AI Dialogues in association with IBM.